All right, buckle up, history nerds and armchair admirals, because today we're going to throw the laws of time, physics, and common sense into a blender. Imagine the year is 1942. The Pacific is a giant, boiling chessboard where the U.S. Navy and the Imperial Japanese Navy are playing high-stakes battleship with actual battleships. No satellites, no GPS, no TikTok to distract sailors, just sweat, steel, and cigarette smoke. And right smack in the middle of this sweaty, diesel-soaked drama, the Battle of Midway, the turning point of World War II in the Pacific. 4 Japanese carriers, 4 American carriers, 1 tiny island, and the fate of half the world hanging in the balance. But what if some god-tier glitch in the Matrix dropped a modern U.S. supercarrier into this fight? I'm talking a Nimitz-class floating airport bristling with FA-18 Super Hornets, radar systems that make 1940s tech look like Fisher-Price toys, and enough computing power to run Fortnite at 120 FPS while nuking an enemy fleet. Yeah, it's that kind of video.
So here's the setup. It's June 1942. The Japanese are rolling toward Midway, confident, cocky, ready to flex. And then boom, on the horizon appears a U.S. Navy Nimitz-class supercarrier. Forget about Enterprise, Hornet, and Yorktown limping into the fight. Now you've got USS Cheat Code steaming in like a Marvel cameo. Nuclear reactors humming, jet engines screaming, and radar dishes spinning like they just raided NASA's leftovers. The Japanese pilots squint at it. Is that a battleship with a skyscraper on it? Nope, it's something way worse. So, question of the day. What happens if you drop a 100,000-ton modern supercarrier into 1942? Short answer, chaos. Long answer, grab your popcorn.
Let's break this beast down. The Nimitz-class carrier is basically the Death Star of the seas, minus the planet killer laser and the Darth Vader cosplay. Size, over 1,000 feet long. That's longer than 3 football fields. Put it next to a 1942 carrier, and the old ships look like inflatable pool toys. Power plant, 2 nuclear reactors. Translation, it can run for 20 years without refueling. Meanwhile, WWII carriers are sucking down oil like frat boys at a keg party. Air wing, around 70 to 90 aircraft, mostly FA-18 Super Hornets. Each one is faster, deadlier, and more tech-loaded than anything 1942 pilots can even dream of. A Wildcat or Zero is basically a biplane with attitude compared to a Hornet. Defenses, Phalanx CIWS, the R2-D2 with a machine gun, missiles that can swat down incoming aircraft before the pilots even finish their war cry, and electronic warfare systems that could fry enemy radar, if 1942 even had radar worth frying. Oh, and did I mention computers? This floating city runs networks that could coordinate strikes, jam enemy communications, and order pizza delivery if Grubhub had time machines. Limits? Sure. Fuel for the jets. Those Super Hornets don't run on hopes and dreams. Ammo eventually runs dry. And good luck explaining to WWII sailors how to maintain turbine engines when they're still figuring out carburetors. But still, this is like dropping an iPhone 15 into the Roman Empire.
Now let's check out the 1942 squad. Japanese fleet, 4 fleet carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu. Each carries around 70 aircraft, Zeros, Vals, and Kates. Deadly in their time, sure, but top speed is about 330 miles per hour, and they're lugging machine guns and light bombs. Weapons, their cutting-edge radar, basically a dude on the deck with binoculars and good eyesight. Anti-aircraft guns, effective if you're attacking in a slow-motion biplane parade, but against jet fighters, Forget it. Tactics? Launch strike waves, overwhelm the enemy, hope your pilots get home before running out of fuel. In other words, they're bringing katanas to a gunfight, where the other guy has drones, missiles, and Wi-Fi. Stage 1. Opening clash. The Japanese fleet is cruising toward Midway, prepping their airstrike. Out of nowhere, radar on the Nimitz picks up their entire formation hundreds of miles away. The carrier launches a wave of FA-18s. These jets scream in at Mach 1.8 while the Japanese pilots are still warming up their engines. The first strike? Brutal. FA-18s armed with precision bombs take out Akagi in minutes. No fumbling dive bombers, no lucky hits, just GPS-guided devastation. Stage 2. Escalation. The Japanese scramble Zeros to intercept. Spoiler, it's a massacre. Zeros try to dogfight jets, but it's like trying to chase a Tesla with a tricycle. Heat-seeking missiles lock on, and boom! Air superiority achieved. Back on the water, Japanese ships start firing flak into the sky. The Hornet pilots chuckle, dodge with ease, and drop laser-guided bombs straight down funnels. Kaga explodes in a fireball so massive, sailors think it's the wrath of the gods. Stage 3. Chaos. By now, the Japanese commanders are panicking. Their whole doctrine, waves of aircraft, mass torpedo runs, just doesn't work. Every squadron they launch gets vaporized. Meanwhile, Tomahawk missiles from the Nimitz are turning battleships into artificial reefs. Radio chatter. What is this devil ship? Sailors mutter prayers. Some think it's a floating fortress sent by the gods. Others suspect America made a pact with aliens. Within hours, the entire Japanese strike force is smoking wreckage.
Okay, let's slow down. Is the Nimitz basically invincible in 1942? Kind of, but not forever. Here's the catch. Every FA-18 mission burns fuel and missiles. Once the ammo lockers start looking empty, you can't exactly call Amazon Prime for a resupply. The carrier's nuclear reactors keep it running, but the planes still need jet fuel, stuff nobody in 1942 has lying around. So yeah, the Nimitz could dominate for days, maybe weeks, but eventually, you're basically stuck with a giant floating hotel that has a really nice radar system and no bullets. It's like bringing a Nerf gun to a paintball match once you run out of darts.
But let's not underestimate the mind games. Imagine being a 1942 pilot used to roaring prop engines, and suddenly this thing appears. Jets roar overhead faster than your brain can register. Missiles streak in with zero warning. Ships vanish in instant fireballs. The Japanese? Utterly terrified. Sailors whisper about sea monsters, divine punishment, maybe even American sorcery. Pilots who survive encounters with FA-18s come back babbling about metal dragons spitting fire from the sky. The Americans? Equally freaked out, but in a good way. The morale boost is off the charts. We've got a ship from the future? Yeah, we're winning this war. Commanders would probably write whole new doctrines around the Nimitz. Heck, the war might end in 1942 instead of 1945. Strategically, Japan loses its entire fleet in one battle. The Pacific War collapses. Hitler's sitting in Berlin like, guys, why are the Americans suddenly gods?
So, bottom line, a modern carrier at Midway isn't just a game changer. It's a game ender. The fight wouldn't even last long enough for a Hollywood movie, unless you count Michael Bay explosions in slow motion. But here's the question I'll leave you with. If one Nimitz-class carrier could basically rewrite history, what happens if you dropped an entire 21st century battle group into World War II? Yeah, the end.